This episode of Harvey Brownstone Interviews is brought to you by the Harvey Brownstone Talk Show Blend Coffee, available at hollywoodblends.com. Everyone's saying it's the best coffee they've ever tasted. Why not give it a try and see for yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today's guest is a highly acclaimed actress, singer, dancer, choreographer, theater director, and author who's been dazzling audiences since she made her Broadway debut at the age of 5 as Princess Ying Yawolak in the original production of The King and I, starring Yul Brynner. She's gone on to perform in a dozen Broadway shows, including Flower Drum Song, Golden Boy, A Joyful Noise, Promises, Promises, Seesaw, and of course, she created the iconic role of Connie in A Chorus Line. She was also Michael Bennett's assistant choreographer for the show, and in 1990, she co-authored a book about the inception and evolution of the show entitled On the Line, The Creation of a Chorus Line. She's also directed many national and international companies of classic shows like The King and I, Bombay Dreams, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, Barnum, Porgy and Bess, Jesus Christ Superstar, Gypsy, and many others. Her choreography credits include Mac and Mabel, Camelot, Damn Yankees, South Pacific, The Merry Widow, and so many more. She was in the movie Jesus Christ Superstar, and 2 years ago, she directed the wonderful television special Wicked in Concert, starring Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel. She's received 2 Helen Hayes Award nominations for Outstanding Choreography for Animal Crackers and South Pacific. And she co-founded the groundbreaking nonprofit organization, the National Asian Artists Project, which showcases the work of Asian American theater artists through performance, outreach, and educational programming. Under our guests' inspired leadership, this visionary group of artists, educators, administrators, community leaders, and professionals is dedicated to building bridges between the work of artists of Asian descent and the many communities who benefit from the work, from underserved primary school students to seasoned arts patrons. Through the many shows they've produced, this organization has demonstrated that iconic theatrical productions can speak to all audiences, and ethnicity is no longer a barrier. Our guest has received a whole slew of prestigious awards and accolades, including the 2003 Asian Woman Warrior Award for Lifetime Achievement from Columbia College, the Isabel Stevens Tony Award, the Paul Robeson Award from Actors Equity, the Asian Pacific American Heritage Association Achievement in Arts Award, the Arena Stage American Artist Award, and an award from the Actors Fund for Outstanding Contribution to the World of Dance. And believe me, I'm only mentioning a few of the awards this extraordinary human being and artist has won. I am delighted and deeply honored to welcome the fabulous Baayork Lee to our show. Miss Lee, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my goodness, Harvey, who is that person you're talking about? I'm sitting here just amazed at everything I've done. You know, I just put one foot in front of the other and I don't look back. So,
Well, look in the mirror because the person looking back at you achieved all of that and you're not done yet.
I'm not done yet. Absolutely not. And
You
what a
know,
pleasure being on this show.
well, it's my honor. You know, it's just astounding to me that at the age of 5, you had the capacity and the discipline to learn lines and deliver consistently professional performances on the Broadway stage in The King and I. Were you even able to read at that age?
No, you know, I did everything by rote. But, you know, the casting agents came down to Chinatown looking for kids for The King and I. And they came to my father's restaurant, into our school. I went to Transfiguration School, and we all came uptown to audition for the show. And I got it. You know, for us to even go past 14th Street was a big deal, you know. But I got it. And at 5, I never thought that I would have lines in the show, because at that time there were pink contracts and white contracts in equity, and I was on a white contract because I had this monologue. And so there I was, learning it all. But I knew when I walked in that theater and I saw the chandeliers and I saw the red velvet seats and I saw everybody around, I just knew that this is what I wanted to do.
Did you have stage fright as a child?
Absolutely not. Not at all. I guess it was like a game, just going uptown and playing, playing and getting in costume and putting on makeup. It was wonderful. But you see, as time went on and I watched Yuriko, she was our Eliza, and she was the head of the Martha Graham Company. As I watched her dance and the other dancers who were from Jerome Robbins' New York City Ballet, as I watched them and the discipline that they had warming up, I began to understand what this was.
Did you know, even at 5 years old, that you wanted to have a career as a dancer?
Absolutely. There was no doubt about it. The dancers would be warming up, and I would have my mother ask them, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, we're warming up." And what kind of warm? This is the ballet warm up, but this is a modern warm up. And I said to my mother, "This is what I want to do." And that was the end of it. And thank God she listened to me.
Yes, thank God for all of us. I've heard you say that Yul Brynner was like a second father to you. Can you share some memories of him with us?
Oh my goodness. Yes, we called him father, and he loved the kids, and he would take us to the zoo, to the circus. He always included us in his publicity shots for Christmas. We were involved with him all the time.
Well, I'm fascinated by the story of how you got into Flower Drum Song after originally being eliminated. You were convinced that Richard Rodgers would remember you. So when you saw him, you went back into the theater and he did remember you and he cast you in the show. You were just a child. Where did you get the guts to go back in and approach him like that?
Well, it all started when I was let go at 8 from The King and I because I had outgrown my costume. And father there were three of us, we had grown up, and he brought us into his dressing room and he gave us gifts. And he gave me a pin of a white elephant that had three heads, one to the right, one to the left, and one to the center. And at 8, he said, "I want you to, always remember this. Look to the right, look to the left, but always go straight ahead." And so as I left the theater in tears with all of my, I had been there for 2 years, I looked back and I said, "I'm coming back. I will be back." As I'm going down the steps of 44th Street subway, I looked back at the marquee and I just said, I just knew that I was going to come back. And so when it was time to audition, and they were just had kids coming in and out, and I went, "This can't be. This cannot be." And I was determined. I don't know how I got back in or what it was inside of me, but I knew that I would be in the next show.
Did you ever talk with your parents after that about the self-esteem, the obvious self-confidence that you were given, even at that age? It must have come from your upbringing.
I'm sure it did. I am sure it did because, my mother would say, "Your father has a job, and that is the restaurant. Your job is to go to school." And so we never missed a day. And it was always about, we came to this country to, give you a better life. And we took advantage of it. We had to take advantage of that. And so the discipline was always there. The discipline was always there.
Now, you appeared in George Balanchine's original production of The Nutcracker. Is it true that your original goal in life was to be a professional ballet dancer?
Yes, because when we left The King and I, there were three of us. One wanted to be an actress, and one wanted to be a concert pianist, and I wanted to dance. And so Jerome Robbins helped me get into the School of American Ballet, and that was Balanchine's school.
But then you didn't remain in ballet because you weren't tall enough? Is that the reason?
I wasn't tall enough. New York City Ballet, there was Tanniquilla Clark, there was Maria Tallcheek, and all of these ladies. I just never grew. And I was there for 12 years, just praying that I would be, in the company, but it didn't happen.
Do you think that that's fair? Is height that important, do you think?
Well, for that company, it was at that time. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But look where your destiny took you. I mean, you worked with Tommy Tune in Seesaw, and I believe at one point you were his associate choreographer. What was he like to work with?
Oh my goodness. Well, Tommy Tune and I go back way, way back because Michael Bennett started it wasn't a company, but at that time, the choreographers had their dancers. So there was Jerome Robbins dancers, there was Peter Gennaro dancers, Bob Fosse dancers, and of course Michael Bennett was very young and he wanted to get his team together. And so Tommy Tune was part of the team, and so was I. So it was wonderful to be working with him.
He's one of my idols. I hope one day we can get him on the show. I just adore the man.
Oh, he's lovely. He's absolutely lovely and so creative and so talented. And he put me on point in Seesaw, and we danced together. It's not where you start, where you finish. So.
And you see that height was not an issue for you there, even dancing with him.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Now, you had a small role in the movie Jesus Christ Superstar, directed by Norman Jewison and filmed in Israel. Was that a happy experience for you?
Yes, 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 yes. I was out of work and I had been in, what show was it? I was in Mr. President. There was a knock on the door and they said, there's a man upstairs that wants to see you. I was Nanette Fabre's grocery girl. I played I was an Eskimo girl. Most of my shows, I played kids. And this man gave me his card and he said, I'm doing a show. Here's love. I saw you in the show and we're looking for kids and for dancers. Would you come and audition? And so it was Here's Love, and it was Norman Jewison. And so I auditioned for Michael Kidd. He saw that I worked on point. So I danced with the dancers, the big dancers, as well as being a kid in the show. And so years later, I am standing in the hot sun online, unemployed, and there were jugglers and street singers and dancers. And I get in the theater. And of course, I just know that it's the movie. And I get on stage and I hear, Baayork, is that you? It's Norman. Do you want to do the movie? Yes.
Well, would you like to have made more movies?
Oh, I think so. But that was not my destiny. And Broadway was my dream.
Now, you met Michael Bennett when you were both at the High School for the Performing Arts, and you worked with him on at least 5 shows, I think. You were one of his closest collaborators. What would you say was the most important thing you learned from Michael Bennett?
Oh, well, he was my mentor, and choreography, just everything. I was a dancer. I followed the choreographer. I loved to perform. But working with Michael was totally different because he was very organic. Michael, we had a drummer, Bobby Thomas, and he would be drumming. Michael would come in, throw his coat off, and he would just dance. And where is that? Where does it come from? And he said, I just feel the music. And I came from Balanchine, from New York City Ballet, where they showed me the steps and I did it. And I kept saying, how do you do this? And he said, I just feel the music. And as I'm telling you, that was the beginning for me of being free and to use my imagination and see where the music takes you.
Michael Bennett was known for having a complicated personality, and he could be quite temperamental. We've had Donna McKechnie and Larry Fuller on our show, both of whom had very close relationships with him. They both described him as something of a tortured genius. How did you manage his temperament and his ego when you worked with him?
I had no problems with him because I came in as a muse. I took his notes. I was there to absorb everything I could from him. I didn't have any problems like that with him. And also, I was his first friend. We were very, very young, and I was his first friend in New York when he came down every summer to dance. So a totally different relationship with him.
Well, I'll tell you a little secret. When I was doing my research for this interview, and I asked several people I know who were very close to Michael Bennett what it was that was so special about your relationship with him, they said that they felt you had a very soothing and calming and healing quality about you. Did you know that about yourself?
Absolutely not. I just knew because we had been kids together and we grew up in the theater together that he he kept me on his right finger, and not only as a friend, but I think I could talk to him the way nobody else could.
That's 100% true from everything I know. And I think the world owes you a lot of thanks because this is a man that looked for comfort and looked to fit in and wanted to feel good in his own skin. And whether you knew it or not, you helped him do that.
Wow. I used to make chicken soup too. And
That's wonderful. Now, of course, you're probably most renowned for creating the iconic role of Connie Wong in A Chorus Line. That character was largely based on your life, correct?
not largely, it is based on my life. Those are my words, exact words. Grew up in Chinatown, Lower East Side, and wanted to be a ballerina. And I loved Maria Tallchief because she played the Sugar Plum Fairy in the Nutcracker, and I would just love watching her. That's who I wanted to be. And I sing about her in A Chorus Line. And I used to have my mother, once again, my poor mother, I heard that she wore two pairs of point shoes in each performance. So my girlfriend and I, we would wait till everybody left the theater. We would go down to her dressing room because they threw away her point shoes, and we would take the point shoes, and I would have them under my pillow at night. I don't know if they were hers or not, but they were in her dressing room, and I would steal her point shoes because I wanted to be Maria Tallchief.
That's amazing. The very first Broadway show I ever saw was A Chorus Line. And if someone had told me back then that I would have Baayork Lee on my show, that I would get to interview her, I wouldn't have believed it. And the thought that you had those dreams as a child and they've come true, it's really quite remarkable. Do you sometimes have to pinch yourself to believe that you've achieved these dreams?
I pinch myself every day. I am so blessed. I love my life and what Michael has given to me, but also my past performing a career, working with so many wonderful choreographers. And I really use the white elephant and Yul Brynner's words. I look to the right, I look to the left, but I go straight forward and I never look back. And so it's one foot in front of the other. What's happening tomorrow? I just jump out of bed and say, what's happening today? What's happening tomorrow? And I want everyone that I work with in whatever show I'm in, or at NAP, or with my kids. I have 35 kids in Chinatown, and I say the same thing. Love what you're doing. Love what you're doing.
I think that it just gave me goosebumps because I think that Yul Brynner would be so proud that his words and that little token he gave you have inspired you in such a way. Now, over the years, you've directed or choreographed many productions of A Chorus Line, including the Broadway revival in 2006, which I also saw. What were you looking for in casting the Connie character?
Oh boy, I wanted someone who understood what it was to get on the F train and fight for a seat. I wanted them to understand what New York was and really have the passion that I had at that age to be in a Broadway show. And of course, so many ladies came, and so many, I've worked with so many at that time, 35 years of directing and all the shows. So I had so many Connies coming. And so I kind of said to Bob, I think you have to make the decision. You have to make the decision because I would hire all of them.
Because you have such a big heart, you know.
Oh.
Now, there was an award-winning documentary film made about the casting process for the Broadway revival called Every Little Step. Did you like that movie?
Yes, I did, because it was the first time that Equity allowed a camera in an audition room. And so I didn't see the complete film until it was done. So I didn't know what they were saying about us in the room. And of course, they didn't know what we were saying about them in the room. So I think the audience really got an opportunity to see what an audition is like and how it is prepared, how we make the decisions, all of those things.
Yeah, I really loved it. I want to ask you now about Baayork Lee, the choreographer and director. You've worked with so many legends like Jerome Robbins and Rodgers and Hammerstein, Michael Bennett, Tommy Tune. Do you channel any of those people when you're directing and choreographing?
Of course I do. I channel Michael all the time. Mike Nichols, all of them. It's so important. But the one thing that they all taught me is to be prepared. Do your research. Walk into that room knowing what you want and then being able to let the actors give you what they will bring to the performance. So that's a very, very important to really deal with the actor, deal with the dancers. This is an entirely different age range because in the old days, we just did what we were told, or you were fired, or you were the butt of a bad day for the director. And it's so different now. We are more concerned about the human being and also what can the actor bring to the role.
I think that's so important. You know, I love that you started your career in The King and I because the dancing, the choreography in The King and I is very much a part of the storytelling. And it seems to me that that's one of your great hallmarks as a choreographer is that you see dancing as storytelling, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I say to all my when I'm choreographing, what are we trying to say here? It's not just step, ball change, kick, flat layout. No, why are we doing that? And Michael Bennett taught me that. Michael Bennett taught me that. He would say, go into the next room with and bring back 16 eights. And here's the music. And I go, well, I don't choreograph. I don't, go ahead. Just listen to the music. Where does it take you? Use your different levels. But also, I had the vocabulary that Michael had. We both studied at a school called Sevilla Fort, and she was from the Catherine Dunham School. And that's the school that Michael Bennett would come down every summer. And so we had the jazz Afro-Cuban background. And so, I had the ballet training and then the modern training from Performing Arts High School, the Graham training. And so he'd just say, use all your vocabulary, just do it. And he'd come in and look. And he'd say, okay, that's good, that's not good. But that was Michael Bennett. He gave me the opportunity.
Well, you've been known to say that when you choreograph a number, you want your dancers to live the choreographer. What do you mean by that?
Oh my goodness. So, of course, they're going to do all the steps, but they must bring something from themselves into the choreography, into the acting, and really the acting and the choreography and the music, and put all of that together, and that is living what you're doing.
When you were a young star on Broadway, you were dancing to composers like Richard Rodgers and Marvin Hamlish, who wrote music that makes your body want to dance because the music gets to the soul of the dancer. And that kind of music, of course, makes your job so enjoyable as a choreographer. Are there any Broadway composers today whose music gives you that same feeling of wanting to dance?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. How many there are. Oh, I can't name them all. I really can't. I'm going to the theater now, and I'm going, oh my goodness, I would love to work with you. I'd love to work with you. Yeah, I just can't name them all.
But I'm glad to see that that tradition is still alive. I know last time I was in New York, I saw Some Like It Hot, and I thought Mark Shaman's music was so danceable.
Yes, yes. And I have to mention Peter Howard. I don't know if you know that name, Peter Howard. He was our dance arranger for so many shows, Crazy for You, on in Chicago. And he trained a lot of those, newcomers, old comers. I'm so glad the tradition of dance arrangers are still around.
Oh, me too. In 1983, you and Tommy Walsh were brought in to replace Kenny Ortega as the choreographers for a Broadway show about Marilyn Monroe called Marilyn, an American Fable. The show closed after only 34 previews and 17 performances. What do you think went wrong, Miss Lee?
Oh, dear. What went wrong? Everything. The producers were from Australia, and I had been in Australia directing Barnum, and I met them there, and they told me that they were coming to Broadway. Everyone thinks that they can do a Broadway show. What we did with the chorus line was so important. We and an arena stage. They take the time to work on the book. They take the time to work on the music. People just want to do a Broadway show. We used to travel to go to Boston and go to New Haven and Washington and Chicago, trying the shows out, being in front of an audience. And that doesn't happen anymore. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but we need the time. And they didn't have that time.
So they didn't do their homework.
I guess not.
Now, you were part of the golden age of Broadway, and so much has changed since then. What do you think of all those jukebox musicals?
I think they're necessary. I really, really do, because we want to bring a whole new generation into the theater. We need butts on the seats. And I think they're important. They really are. MJ, A Beautiful Noise, all of those shows are very important.
That's refreshing to hear you say, because I've had a lot of Broadway people on my show who are not quite as generous as you, if I may say.
Well, I'm thinking on both sides because I'm also a producer. And even if it's a short run, Britney Spears got young people into the theater, and maybe they'll go and see Wicked. I think we have to really explore the next generation.
Well, when we had Sir Tim Rice on the show, he felt that the answer to getting young people into the theaters was Jesus Christ Superstar, which was original music, but it was geared to that young generation.
Yes. Yep.
So
on the right track.
Yeah, he sure was. Now, you were at one time, I believe, a talent scout for Tokyo Disneyland. Was that fun?
Yes, it was fun. I had done a chorus line with Donna McKechnie in Tokyo, and I brought a company over there. And Michael Bennett had gone in 1977, and he helped produce a Japanese company of a chorus line. And that's been playing for years and years and years. But we got Donna McKechnie in, and we brought an American company in. And the musical director, Maurice Shibuya, he said, listen, I work for Tokyo Disneyland. Would you like to be our representative in the United States? And I went, of course. And so I got all the Americans over here and auditioned for Tokyo Disneyland. And I did that for 7 years.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I also read that you opened a musical theater school in Seoul, South Korea. Is that right?
That's right. My mentor, again, Maurice Shibuya, said that they were building a theme park like Disney. And something, negotiations didn't happen. And so the fourth richest man in the world, a Korean, he was going to build this Disneyland. So he said, I won't use Mickey and Minnie. I will use, raccoons, And so Mr. Shibuya brought me over and they built a small theater for me in this huge complex. And I produced sort of a Broadway show, but they didn't have singer, dancers, and actors. And so for 5 years, they helped me open a school there, the Lotte World Musical Theater School. And we trained hundreds and hundreds of singers and dancers. And I brought the teachers over from America. And he also started same thing in Japan. And so I opened the school there.
It's just amazing. The outreach, the tentacles of your talent are global, truly global. Now, tell me about your work with the National Asian Artist Project. What motivated you to create that organization?
Well, I had been thinking about doing something for my community, and years go by, and I'm in Italy, I'm in Stockholm, I'm in Berlin, and I was sitting in South Africa helping them put something together, a company to do original shows to talk about prevention of AIDS there. And I saw how that was working, original show. And I said, I haven't done anything for my community. So I came back and I was doing The King and I, and my two assistants, Nina Zoe Lamb and Stephen Ang. And I said, where are all these wonderful dancers and actors? Where do they go? And they said they're waiting for the next King and I, and they're waiting for the next Miss Saigon. And I said, I've been thinking about this. And Stephen said, well, let's do it. And so, not knowing how to form a company or doing anything, we just had the passion. And we started National Asian Artist Project. And I said, listen, let's start with Oklahoma and Carousel and all of, and we're 11 years old now.
It's just such an important organization. For many years, you've been advocating for employment opportunities for Asian artists on stage and off stage. Have you seen significant progress in the last 20 years?
Not the last 20 years, I think the last 10 years. So much has happened, and they're being trained now. It's so wonderful to go to NYU and to Pace and to University of Michigan, and there are Asian actors coming in and dancers coming to New York. And where do they go? They knock on our door and say, what do? We have to audition for The King and I or Miss Saigon, and so to do Oklahoma Carousel or Into the Woods. I also have a choir, and we're now residents at the Edison Hotel. And last night we were doing Christmas songs. And every week we would pick another composer. And I started that because when they finish a show or when they get out of school, they can't afford a voice teacher. It costs too much money. So they come once a week, they vocalize and they sing. So that's important. And then I started, Freddie Gershon, who started Music Theater International, he had me do a workshop for him. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd like to help my community. And so I went back to Chinatown and to PS 124 because my cousin's kids had gone there. And we have 35 kids, and we're introducing them to musical theater. And we take them every year to the Junior Theater Festival down in Atlanta. It's the first time getting out of Chinatown, first airplane trip. We were the youngest Asians, only Asians going down, and we're rock stars down there. What can I say?
I think that is so important. I'm just wondering, as I'm listening to you speak, what do you think has to happen for ethnic barriers in the entertainment industry to be eliminated so that we have true diversity and inclusivity in casting?
Well, I think a lot is changing, and a lot of casting agents and a lot of producers are being very, very careful and aware. We just have to be given the opportunity and study and continue to study and have the standards as high as anybody else.
Absolutely. And audiences have to become accustomed
Yes.
to seeing the people on the stage reflective of who we are, of our community.
Exactly. And they're aware now. They're very much aware now.
When you look back at your life and career, Miss Lee, is there one specific moment or experience that has been the most personally satisfying in your career?
I think my kids down at PS 124, when I see them, they're 11 years now, and we have Sarah Shu. She is now dancing and singing on the Disney cruise. She started with us when she was 8. Claire Kwan, she made her debut in Almost Famous. That's where my heart is when I see those children. And it might be 3 or 4. We just had a girl graduate from LaGuardia as an actress, and she wants to go on. Even if I get a handful to make them aware of theater. And also, when they come to me and they say, Miss Lee, my mother took me uptown to see Wicked or Lion King. And I go, they know about Broadway. They got on the train and they went 4 stops and they know about Broadway. That warms my heart.
You know, it's very karmic because in a way you turned yourself into Yul Brynner. What he did for you, that inspiration and motivation he gave you to look forward, keep going, put one foot in front of the other, you're doing that for all these kids. It's an amazing legacy of his that you're carrying on, and the legacy you're creating of your own. And it's got me wondering, do you have any interest in sitting down and writing a memoir? Look at the life you've led.
I have a couple more chapters before I start.
When you write that book, I'm going to beg you to come back on our show to promote it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Ms. Baayork Lee, it's been a real pleasure meeting you and having this opportunity to speak with you about your monumental career. Congratulations on your legacy of excellence as a performer, choreographer, director, author, and thank you for everything you've done to promote the best interests and profile of Asian American artists. You are a superstar.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just a little old dancer, little girl from Chinatown. And, you know, that's when I pinch myself and I go, I can't believe it. I was standing at the Rome Opera House with my company of Porgy and Bess behind me. And I looked out the audience. I said, Chinatown, Rome. Oh my God, how did I get here?
And somewhere along the line, you learned how to make chicken soup.
Yes.
Thank you again for being on our show. I absolutely adore you.
Thank you so much for having me, Harvey. It's my pleasure. And you know, 2025 is our 50th anniversary. And I hope that you'll be a part of all of that.
I will be there with bells on. Our guest has been the renowned Broadway star, choreographer, director, and co-founder of the National Asian Artist Project, the wonderful Baayork Lee. You can find out more about the National Asian Artist Project by going to their official website, naaproject.org. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you to my producer, Steve Silver, my director of programming, Deborah Batsafin, my production assistant, Rosa Puzo, and my entire team at the XPTV1 network in the UK. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all the great interviews on the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted.